You feel like you're losing everything. The friends you once believed would stand beside you forever are slowly disappearing from your life. Conversations have grown quiet. The calls have stopped coming. The people who once filled your days with laughter now feel like distant memories. At the same time, the doors that once opened so easily for you now seem firmly shut. Opportunities fade, plans collapse, and the future that once looked clear now feels uncertain and heavy. In moments like this, loneliness can feel overwhelming. You start to wonder if something has gone wrong. You begin asking painful questions in the silence of your own thoughts. If I'm supposed to be growing, if I'm moving towards something better, why does it feel like everything around me is dying? Why does it feel like I'm standing at a funeral instead of stepping into a new beginning? But listen carefully to this truth. You are not being buried. You are being planted. There is a powerful law woven into both nature and the human spirit. Nothing reaches the light until it first survives the darkness. Every seed that eventually becomes a mighty tree begins its journey the same way, hidden beneath the soil. When a seed is planted, it is not placed in comfort. It is covered in dirt. It is pressed down by the weight of the earth. The environment around it is dark, silent, and unseen. From the outside, it looks like the seed has been forgotten. It looks like the seed has been lost. But inside that darkness, something extraordinary is happening. The seed begins to break. Its outer shell cracks open. The form it once had begins to dissolve. Everything about the seed that once defined it starts to disappear. If you could watch the process from the outside, you might think the seed was being destroyed. But it isn't being destroyed. It is transforming. Because a seed cannot become a tree while remaining a seed. The old form has to break apart so that new life can emerge. The very thing that looks like destruction is actually the beginning of expansion. The same process often happens in human life. Sometimes growth does not look like celebration. It looks like loss. It looks like separation. It looks like the closing of familiar doors and the quiet fading of relationships that once felt permanent. But these moments are not always signs that your life is collapsing. Often, they are signs that your life is expanding beyond the environment that once held you. The friendships that no longer fit, the opportunities that suddenly disappear, the seasons of isolation that make you question everything. These can all be part of a deeper process of transformation. Just like the seed in the soil, you are being prepared for a version of yourself that could never emerge if everything stayed the same. So if life feels quiet right now, if things feel darker than you expected, if it seems like everything familiar is slipping away, remember this: your story is not ending. Your story is germinating. What feels like a funeral may actually be the burial of the version of you that could not survive the future you are about to step into. And once the roots grow strong enough in the unseen places, the same life that felt buried will rise through the soil and reach toward the light. Look at the history of Joseph. Joseph was a young man with a powerful dream. In that dream, he saw himself rising to a place of influence and authority. He saw a future that looked like a palace, honor, leadership, and purpose. But the path between the dream and the destiny looked nothing like what he expected. Instead of a palace, Joseph found himself in a pit. His own brothers, the people who shared his blood, turned against him. They stripped him of the coat his father had given him and threw him into a deep hole in the ground. From there, they sold him into slavery, as if his life meant nothing. In a single day, Joseph went from being a beloved son to being treated like property, and the pain didn't stop there. After being taken into a foreign land, Joseph tried to live with integrity. He served faithfully in the house of his master. Yet even there, he was betrayed again. He was falsely accused of something he did not do and thrown into prison. No trial, no justice, just darkness and chains. For 13 long years, Joseph lived in circumstances that looked nothing like his dream. To anyone watching from the outside, it looked like Joseph's life had ended before it truly began. His father believed he was dead. His brothers assumed they would never see him again. The world had moved on as if Joseph's story was finished. It looked like a funeral, but heaven saw something very different. God did not allow Joseph to be placed in those dark places to destroy him. He allowed those seasons to shape him. What looked like a pit was actually protection. What looked like a prison was actually preparation. Because the prison was not random. It was strategic. Inside that prison, Joseph met the very people who would one day speak his name inside the palace. The cupbearer and the baker, men who served directly under the king, were placed in the same place of confinement. The connections Joseph needed for his future could only be formed in the place he thought was holding him back. If Joseph had remained comfortably in his father's house, wearing his colorful coat and enjoying favor without responsibility, he might have stayed a dreamer without discipline. He might have remained a young man with visions, but without the strength, wisdom, and character required to lead a nation. The darkness forced him to grow. The betrayal strengthened his endurance. The waiting built his patience. Every painful season was shaping him into someone capable of carrying the weight of the destiny he had seen in his dream. Joseph was not being buried. He was being built. And sometimes the same thing is happening in your life. There are seasons when you feel cut off from everyone else. You feel isolated. Opportunities seem distant. The crowd you once belonged to is no longer around you. It can feel like you've been placed on the outside of life, watching others move forward while you remain hidden. But isolation is not always rejection. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes God removes you from the noise of the crowd so you can develop the strength needed for the calling ahead. The quiet seasons, the lonely seasons, the hidden seasons, these are often the places where real transformation happens. Your isolation may actually be your insulation. You are being kept away from certain influences, certain distractions, and certain expectations so that something deeper can grow inside you. Because crowns are heavy, and before someone can wear one, they must develop the character strong enough to carry it. So if this season feels lonely, if it feels like you've been placed in the dark while everyone else is in the spotlight, remember Joseph. The pit did not stop him. The prison did not end him. Those places were simply the hidden training ground for the palace that was waiting ahead. Stop fighting the dirt. It may not look beautiful. It may not feel comfortable. The pressure, the confusion, the silence around you can make it seem like life has pushed you into a place you never wanted to be. But the dirt you're standing in right now is not your enemy. The dirt is the nutrient for your next season. In nature, nothing grows without soil. The same earth that looks messy and dark is the very thing that feeds the seed. and allows it to develop roots strong enough to support what will eventually rise above the ground. Without that hidden process beneath the surface, there would be no tree, no fruit, no life reaching toward the sky. Your life works in a similar way. If you feel stuck right now, it does not mean you have stopped growing. In fact, some of the most powerful growth happens in the places no one else can see. Growth often happens in the quiet seasons when there is no applause, no recognition, and no audience watching your progress. So keep growing in the dark. Keep developing your strength when no one is cheering you on. Keep building your discipline when it feels like nobody notices. Keep sharpening your mind, strengthening your character, and nurturing your purpose in the silence. Because what grows underground is preparing for the moment it breaks through the surface. And when that moment finally comes, everything will look different. The same people who once believed your story was finished will suddenly see the life that has been rising quietly beneath the surface. The same people who thought they were standing at your funeral will realize they were actually witnessing the beginning of your launch. What looked like the end will reveal itself as the beginning. So if this season feels dark, if it feels like you've been planted instead of celebrated, take heart. Something is growing, and when the time is right, it will rise. If you feel like you're being planted right now, type "I am growing" in the comments. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe to Grow Daily for more content that strengthens your mind, your faith, and your purpose. Don't fear the dark. That's where the power is.